Hello everyone, Ayaka here. So in today's video I want to discuss the topic whether you should still pull for Ayaka or not. Now if you don't know, because of the COVID situation in Shanghai, the 2.7 update is getting delayed, and also as a result of that, Ayaka's banner will pretty much be active right up until the 2.7 banner is released. Now for 2.7 banners, of course we don't know who it is exactly. My personal guess is going to be Yellen, which is going to be the new 5-star Hydro Bow user paired up with either Ito or Yoimiya, depending on who shows up more during the 2.7 quest line. But other than that, leaves the question for especially free-to-play whether you should still pull for Ayaka with the current banner or just save up for 2.7. And since we do not know Yellen's power level, or who's going to be the second rerun, I'm going to be purely basing this video on whether you should pull for Ayaka, assuming we don't know what's coming next. Now of course, if you have seen the leaks, you know what is Yellen's power level. I won't be making that video until her information is officially released. So with that said, let's get started. Now of course, there is no one answer to all questions. Your answers will be different depending on what type of players you are. Now I'll start with one by one. So if your focus is on beating the Spiral Abyss, I wouldn't recommend you to pull for Ayaka. The main reason is because Freezing team has been way too OP in the Spiral Abyss recently, and MiHoYo has done their fair share to nerf the Freezing teams, and it is honestly very easy to nerf perma-freeze teams in the Abyss. Perma-freeze teams basically involve having Ayaka, a buffer, which in most cases is Mona, also applies Hydro, or the other substitution is Kokomi, someone like Venti who can crowd control in cases it is needed. In case it is not needed, you can bring Shenhe for more damage. And the fourth one is a flex spot. Most of the time Diona is brought. Sometimes you can bring Ganyu for even more damage. But the essential idea is you keep enemy frozen at all times. And because of that, you do not need a shield character because you won't be taking damage at all, and you basically just go at it and try to beat them while everyone's frozen, because also the 4-piece Blizzard Destroyer set is OP. So it is, on the other hand, it is also very easy to nerf the Freezing team, and MiHoYo has been doing so for quite a bit. Essentially what all they need to do was for 412 never put small enemies, 412 all put elite level enemies or above, basically enemies that cannot be frozen, boss level enemies especially. Then at that point, Freezing team, basically Ayaka, will be consistently losing damage. And another problem with that is when they swap Abyss between the enemies that can be frozen versus the enemies cannot be frozen, your Ayaka will have to be swapping builds back and forth. For example, in a Freezing team dominant meta, your Ayaka can run Mist Splitter for maximum damage, whereas in a non-Freezing team dominant meta, like 412 having all boss level enemies or above, your Ayaka will need to run a Jade Cutter for that crit rate, because you won't be able to consistently get that crit rate boost from the 4-piece Blizzard Destroyer set, given that enemies cannot be frozen. So that is my conclusion on why you should not pull for Ayaka if you're someone going for the Spiral Abyss. Now we can move on to the next level for someone who's just generally wanting Ayaka in their overworld explorations or just doing dailies and things like that. And of course, for that you pretty much don't care, you just pull for whichever character you want, because even Amber can complete dailies fine. But in Ayaka's case, there's quite a few advantages. First of all, she is, I would argue, not the best DPS, but she is a very solid DPS. And second of all, any overworld enemies, unless it's elite bosses, she can pretty much take it all away with a single Q, so she's pretty nice there. Her Q does require 80 energy recharge, but normally when you play Ayaka in the open world, you would bring another crowd character, especially if you have Shenhe. That is mostly fine for her energy recharge problems, otherwise Diona is a great option. And of course, finally, Ayaka's passive allows her to zip through waters, which is very nice, and she can also do it on land. The main advantage of her over Mona in terms of her special travel movement is that she can stop in the middle of a water surface and be able to create ice, and then she can immediately follow up with her E, so she can rest on that for about 5 to 6 seconds and then keep going. So this way, theoretically, you can infinitely cross an infinitely long distance on water, whereas for Mona, you pretty much are dead once your stamina runs out. Now finally, for beginners, people who have just joined the game, Whether you should pull on Ayaka or not, my answer would definitely be yes. Now for this one, I'm more basing on the 4 stars from her banner, not her personally, because Ayaka is an Inazuma character, so you pretty much won't be able to get her past level 40 until you get to AR 35. But you can get to AR 35 relatively fast, and her boss plus her ascension materials are not exactly very hard to find. Also for the ascension material, it's a little bit more pain, but her boss, the what I like to call the physical hypostasis, is not that difficult to fight. And of course, you can always ask higher level players for help. On her 4-star banner, the 3 characters are Rosaria, Razor, and Sayu. Again, Sayu being an Inazuma character, you won't be able to use her right off the bat unless you're okay with a level 40 character hanging out in your party. That is also fine. Razor, even though Razor is no longer meta at all, but in the beginning, especially the early stages before AR 45, Razor is a pretty viable main DPS, mainly because you only need to build him, you don't have to focus on anything else, and he's pretty standard in terms of building. As for artifact sets for Razor, you can pretty much just use 4-piece Gladiator, which you will be able to find just as you're completing quests and stuff like that. Rosaria is a good pair for Razor, not only because Rosaria is able to do off-field damage with her Q, so your Razor can stay on the field with his Q and do all the damage. The other main advantage is that Rosaria is of the cryo element, so that gives Razor the superconduct needed to pull off more physical damage, which is Razor's specialty. As for Sayu, once you're able to get to Inazuma, Sayu is a very good healer, of course not the best, but for beginners it's definitely more than enough. For Sayu, again, all you need to do is just a Gladiator artifact set that works well on her. She scales off attack for healing, things like that. And the other main advantage for Sayu is her map running abilities, which is very much preferred, especially even for now. Like if I need to travel large distances or around running fields, I normally bring Sayu. Not only does she complete one of the Anemo characters needed to get the get the travel speed bonus, but her E also allows her to roll around very fast. So that is my take on whether you should still pull for Ayaka, even though her banner is technically overtime. So again, if you're looking for the Spiral Abyss, I wouldn't exactly recommend her at the moment. As of later, once Sumeru comes out, will Permafreeze make a comeback? I have no idea. But as for looking at the 2.7 potential Abyss setup and what MiHoYo most likely will do, I do not recommend pulling on her as for the moment if you want to see progress right away. But everyone else, I think Ayaka is still a very good option. I mean, her damage is still very nice, even though I don't think she's top of the chart right now. But her damage is still very up there, and as if you're not doing the Spiral Abyss, she's more than enough to deal with anything in the overworld, including any elite bosses. So that's my take on this video. Hopefully you like it. So from now on, I'll try to upload again daily, and hopefully that schedule will stick for the next 8 months at least. I'll see what happens after 4 months, because I was starting to be taking some courses and also part-time jobs, so I'll see what I can do.